Hi guys, my name is Janice Ripada, and for today's video, we are going to tackle about the pairwise comparison method. Pairwise comparison is a method of voting or decision-making that is based on determining the winner between every possible pair of candidates. Pairwise comparison is also known as Copeland's method. It is a form of preferential voting because voters submit a ranking of candidates based on preference, not a single choice. As already mentioned, the pairwise comparison method begins with voters submitting their ranked preferences for the candidates in question. The total percentage of voters who submitted a particular ranking can then be tallied. A preference schedule is a table displaying the different rankings that were submitted along with the percentage of votes for each. The schedule can then be used to compare the preference for different candidates in the population as a whole. Here is a formula in getting the pairs. Example number 1. Diners of Mambo restaurant were asked about their favorite course of meal where A is appetizer, M is a main course, and D is dessert. Which course is selected as the favorite using the pairwise comparison? Here's the given table for number 1. To solve example number 1, let's first figure out how many pairs we need to contrast. By the given formula, n multiplied by n minus 1 divided by 2. So let n be the number of choices. So since example number 1 has 3 choices, which are appetizer, main course, and the dessert. So, let's substitute. So, 3 multiplied by 3 minus 1 divided by 2. So, bring down 3. 3 minus 1 equals 2 divided by 2. So, 3 times 2 equals 6. So, divided by 2 is equal to 3. So, 3 pairs. We need to contrast 3 pairs. What are the pairs we need to contrast? So let M be the main course, let A be the appetizer, and let D be the dessert. So now, let's contrast. M and D, D and A, and A and M. So we have already 3 pairs. Now let's solve for the number of votes between the main course and the dessert. Presented in the given table in the first column, M or the main course will have the 21 votes since it appeared earlier than the dessert. In the second column, main course again will have the 13 votes since it appeared earlier than dessert. In the third column, dessert will have the 7 votes since it appeared earlier than the main course. And in the last column, dessert will have the 5 votes since it appeared earlier than the main course. So let's sum them all up. 7 plus 5 equals 12. 21 plus 13 equals 34. So the main course won this voting. So let's put 1 point to the main course. So next, the next pair is the dessert and the appetizer. So in the first column, appetizer will have the 21 votes since it appeared earlier than dessert. In the second column, appetizer again will have the 13 votes since it appeared earlier than dessert. In the third column, appetizer will have the 7 votes since it appeared earlier than dessert. And in the last column, dessert will have the 5 votes since it appeared earlier than appetizer. So let's sum them all up. 21 plus 13 plus 7 equals 41. So, the appetizer won this voting. So, let's put 1.2 appetizer. Now, let's move on to the last pair, which is the appetizer and the main course. So in the first column, the main course will have the 21 votes since it appeared earlier than the appetizer. In the second column, appetizer will have the 13 votes since it appeared earlier than the main course. In the third column, appetizer again will have the 7 votes since it appeared earlier than the main course. And in the last column, main course will have the 5 votes since it appeared earlier than the appetizer. So let's sum them all up. 21 plus 5 equals 26. 13 plus 7 equals 20. So the main course won this voting. So let's add 1 point to the main course. So as you can see in the tally, the main course won these votings because it has a greater number of votes. Example number 2. Section Nara conducted an election for the new president of their classroom. The given table shows the preference for an election with 4 candidates, A, B, C, and D. Use the method of pairwise to solve. Here is the given table that shows the preference for an election. In order to get the number of pairs we need to contrast, we must use the given formula, which is n multiplied by n minus 1 divided by 2. So let n be the number of choices. Since example number 2 has 4 choices, which are A, B, C, and D, so let's substitute. 4 multiplied by 4 minus 1 divided by 2. So bring down 4. 4 minus 1 equals 3 divided by 2. So 4 times 3 equals 12 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2, so it's 6. So there are 6 pairs that we need to contrast. What are those 6 pairs we need to contrast? They are A and B, B and C, D and C, A and D, C and A, D and B. Now let's solve for the first pair, which is A and B. In the first column, B will have 8 votes since it appeared earlier than A. Next, B will have 5 votes since it appeared earlier than A. Next, A will have 4 votes since it appeared earlier than B. Next is A will have 2 votes since it appeared earlier than B. B will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than A. B will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than B. In the last column, B will have 1 vote again since it appeared earlier than A. So let's sum it all up. So 4 plus 2 equals 6, 8 plus 5 equals 13, plus 1, 14, plus 1, 15, plus 1, 16. So the winner is B. So let's put 1 point to B. Now let's move on to the other pair, which is B and C. In the first column, B will have 8 votes since it appeared earlier than C. Next, C will have 5 votes since it appeared earlier than B. Next, B will have 4 votes since it appeared earlier than C. C will have 2 votes since it appeared earlier than B. Next, B will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than C. And then next column, B will have 1 vote again since it appeared earlier than C. And the last column, B will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than C. Let's sum it all up. 5 plus 2 equals 7. 8 plus 4 equals 12. Plus 1, 13. Plus 1, 14. And plus 1, 15. So as you can see, B is the winner of the voting. So let's put 1 point to B here. Next pair is D and C. So in the first column, D will have 8 votes since it appeared earlier than C. In the second column, C will have 5 votes since it appeared earlier than D. In the next column, D will have 4 votes since it appeared earlier than C. Next, C will have 2 votes since it appeared earlier than D. Next, C will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than D. Next is D will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than C. And the last column, D will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than C. So 5 plus 2 equals 7, plus 1 equals 8. 8 plus 4 equals 12, plus 1, 13, plus 1, 14. The winner of the voting here is D. So let's put 1 point to D. Now let's move on to the next pair, which is A and D. In the first column, D will have 8 votes since it appeared earlier than A. In the next column, D will have 5 votes since it appeared earlier than A. In the next column, A will have 4 votes since it appeared earlier than D. Next is A will have 2 votes since it appeared earlier than D. And then, next is A will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than D. And then again, A will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than D. And the last column, D will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than A. Let's sum it all up. 4 plus 2 equals 6, plus 1 equals 7, plus 1 equals 8. So 8 plus 5 equals 13, plus 1 equals 14. The winner of the votings is letter D. So let's put 1 point to D. Now let's move on to the other pair, which is C and A. In the first column, C will have 8 votes since it appeared earlier than A. In the second column, C again will have 5 votes since it appeared earlier than A. Next, A will have 4 votes since it appeared earlier than C. Next column, A will have 2 votes since it appeared earlier than C. Next, A will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than C. Next column, A again will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than C. And the last column, A will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than C. Let's sum it all up. 8 plus 5 equals 13. 4 plus 2 equals 6. Plus 1, 7. Plus 1, 8. Plus 1 equals 9. So the winner is C. Let's put 1 point to C. So the last pair is D and B. In the first column, B will have 8 votes since it appeared earlier than D. In the second column, B will have 5 votes since it appeared earlier than B. Next column, D will have 4 votes since it appeared earlier than B. Next column, B will have 2 votes since it appeared earlier than D. Next, B will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than D. And the next column, B will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than D. And the last column is also B will have 1 vote since it appeared earlier than D. So 5 plus 4 equals 9. 8 plus 2 equals 10, plus 1, 11, plus 1, 12, plus 1, 13. So the winner is, here is B. So let's put another 1 point to B. So as you can see in the tally, the greater number of votes is B. So the winner is B. As we already know how to solve pairwise comparison method, I left another example here for you to try and solve it. So an example runs like this. Example number 3. Aling Lita is a fruit vendor and she asks her customers about their favorite fruit to buy, where A is apple, B is banana, D is durian, and W is watermelon.